another episode of the Daily Vedantic. And today's reflection within our 20-part series on the Gita is on renunciation, one of the most misinterpreted concepts within all of Eastern philosophy, but especially within the Gita and Vedanta. And that is this idea we all have of the renunciate that has given everything away, living in a cave, living on tiny little ounce of rice a day, and this is in some way supposed to be a holy person, renouncing the world. As Christ said, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. There is such a misinterpretation of renunciation within Vedanta and within the Gita and different interpretations of the Gita. But it can be summed up concisely in this way. You can't give anything up. You can only take something up. You can't give anything up. You can only take something up. Renunciation is an effect. It is not a cause. You don't decide to renounce wealth. You don't decide to renounce name, fame, power, status. It is much more like your childhood toys, to be honest. When you were 6, you didn't decide, you know what, I'm going to give up these trucks. I don't need them anymore. I'm over them. And I'm beyond these material traps. No, you actually just said, you know what, I really want a bike now. You attached to something better. And that is not only what happens in all of our lives, but it is, and not only more convenient, easier to do than trying to abstain from something you are highly, highly attracted to and not having anything to replace it with. It's also what we're called to do spiritually, to hijack our natural wiring for attachment and to use that to attach to something higher, like climbing a ladder. Hook on to that upper rung to let go of the lower. So within this concept of renunciation, it's really straightforward. We are not called to go live like the ascetic in the cave. You might be perfectly suited for immense wealth. There are examples like King Janaka, a realized soul that was a king with all material possession that you could imagine, but was not attached to it, was not governed by the current material wealth or the pursuit of more of it. You can absolutely pursue more of it, but you are not governed by that. Perhaps you're pursuing more of it to be of more service to your community. But what you've done is you've hooked onto the higher ideal to be of service to your community. And that might unlock immense latent capacity within you to earn money. In fact, 10 years ago when I was running my last company, it was so brutal, sent me to the ER with a heart condition and that I still struggle with today, and PTSD of not being able to look at my email inbox because it was just bad news after bad news after bad news, especially in the last 18 months of the company, after getting it to a nearly $400 million valuation within 2 years. My 20s was just this constant roller coaster of ups and downs, ups and downs. We would end up selling that company in a fire sale, making next to nothing off of it, and after 7 years of 7 days a week, working my tail off without balance, now I work about 5-6 hours a day, extremely concentrated 5 to 6 hours. But it is a light workload in comparison. And yet on the economic side, it feels like I'm working 10% as hard and generating 10 times the outcome. And that is this philosophy in action. Every company that I've started since then has been around a higher ideal of this product or this service can be useful to my community. And then it ends up being useful to a few other communities and a few more and a few more. Before I know it, something like Magic Mind has tens of thousands of subscribers and tens of millions in revenue. And I never thought to myself, okay, I'm going to start this to generate some amount of wealth for me. I actually started that company reluctantly, very reluctantly. That is renunciation. From the outside, it might look like a company that's growing fast and generating a lot of revenue. But internally, it's actually this sense of obligation and duty of, okay, this is what I'm called to do. So I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to care about doing every little bit, every aspect of it. I'm going to care about doing it right. And it turns out it's one hell of a way to build a company when you are obsessed about your customer. Not obsessed about name, status, competitors, some ego manufacturing, or some financial milestone, but obsessed about the service that you uniquely can provide, the product that you uniquely have an insight to make. Maybe your calling is to be an amazing parent. Maybe your current obligation is taking care of a parent. But renunciation has nothing to do with the external aspects of what you're doing. It has everything to do with the internal orientation of what you're doing it for. So within this theme of the Gita around renunciation, it is so well articulated with this framing. It's not what you do, it's what you do it for. And you can't give anything up. You can only take something up. You might be a king in a palace and a complete renunciate. And you might be an ascetic in a cave with a bag of rice and a whole lot of attachment. Renunciation is not giving something up. It is taking something up. So hook onto that higher and watch what happens. This is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at The Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.